welcome to the staff of Autism Delaware. Brian Hall, you want to identify yourself, please? That's great. Annalisa Ekblad.
Great job.
Katrina Demetrio.
Hello.
I had a little help from Liz Carlisle, who's auditing but not appearing today. Welcome. In the course of doing these interviews, we've tried to check in with many organizations in Delaware, but certainly the essential ones. And Autism Delaware has been designated an essential organization. Brian, maybe you could start by refreshing people's memories about what autism spectrum disorder is and who it affects.
Well, I appreciate you directing that to me, Sharon. However, I want my family services director, Annalisa Ekblad, to take it because I think she's impacted, like Katrina Demetria, who will speak later. They're so directly impacted on a daily basis, and I think I want them to kind of share their input.
Sure, fair enough. Annalisa?
Sure. Just really briefly, autism spectrum disorder is a neurodevelopmental disability. It affects people. It is a lifelong developmental disability that affects individuals of all races, all socioeconomic status, and all ethnicities equally. It is characterized of impacting individuals in two general large categories, and those large categories are social communication deficits, like with language and social skills, and then also in the area of repetitive and restrictive patterns of behavior. So that could be stimming, or it could also mean a rigidity in thinking and the way they process information. So that's just really in a nutshell what autism is. It affects, like I said, it is a lifelong developmental disability that affects thousands of Delawareans every day. And just one more point, it is the fastest growing developmental disability right now.
Boy, that needs 1 hour of conversation. But let me add another question just to be clear. I don't think you can be too clear about these things. Does the disorder always show up in childhood, and can it ever be cured or go away?
There is no cure for autism. However, with early and effective intervention, people with autism can live highly successful, independent and lives in the community. And your other question was about diagnosis.
Yes, is it always during childhood?
So the diagnostic criteria says that the symptoms of autism should be present in childhood in order for someone to receive a diagnosis. Now, that doesn't mean that they necessarily receive that diagnosis in childhood. Many individuals may receive that diagnosis in adolescence or later on, even in adulthood. But you would want to see that those patterns, those things that I talked about in terms of those diagnostic criteria had been present since childhood.
This is a statewide organization. So you're serving, from Newcastle County, Kent, Sussex, the entire state. How has the pandemic affected your ability to deliver those services? Who would like to take that?
So I can speak from the adult service perspective. Just like all of us, our individuals on the spectrum have experienced loss of job, unemployment, laid off, loss of access to the things that they enjoy, their community, just like we all do. The big difference is for those folks who have had that loss is that our individuals on the spectrum just thrive and flourish with consistency and routine, and that has gone away. And so it's very, very challenging. But I also have to say that during this pandemic, we have many of our individuals that are considered essential because they work in hospitals and grocery stores and the businesses that never shut down. So we continue to rise to the occasion for our individuals on the spectrum who are viable employees, honored employees, to provide the staff from Autism Delaware so they could continue to do that. And with that took us helping them to understand what was happening with COVID and the rules, wearing a face covering, washing your hands frequently. So we had to put in a whole nother set of rules in their workplaces so they could continue to be successful employees. So also I think it's important when this occurred very quickly, the POWER program, which serves our adults, put in place some virtual, what we called virtual distance coaching, sort of like the schools did, so we could keep in touch with those that were able to continue to engage with us at some level through, the computer screen, so they didn't feel like we had fallen off the face of the earth.
Our doors have never closed through this pandemic. We've continued to strive to provide services virtually. Our family support staff are in the homes of many families across the state on a daily basis. Our virtual services, when we needed to do virtual services, vocation, we were educating and supporting families within their home environments, in addition to all the face-to-face work that we provided throughout the state, throughout this entire time. I think what we've always done as an organization is always tried to create opportunities for our folks to be successful. And that depends on a couple major things. First, it depends on our ability to partner with our community. We have some great business partners out there. And I could spend all day talking about some of those business partners who have continued to open their door. And when the doors did open, the first group they called back was us, because I know our people are valued contributors to the work that happens. The other thing is those families. Families are amazing. And through this time, we wanted to keep services at 100%, but we were not able to do that for many reasons. Our staff having to be home with their kids, and all those challenges, but yet the family still worked with us to create some really creative schedules around supporting them through in this transition and this period of time. And I got to commend families. So I thank families. We started in the kitchen of somebody's home, and I feel like the work that we do still happens in the kitchen of people's homes across the state.
How can the community support you, rally around you, help?
Well, I think, like every other nonprofit out there, we survive based on the community support. One family at a time is what I say. This year, all of our major fundraising events happened in the spring. We couldn't have those things the way we typically have. So now we're trying to figure out how to bring people together in a way that's safe. And that's through virtual events, that's through just acknowledging the ongoing work that's provided across the state. So we have a thing called Blue Jean Ball coming up, which is typically a big bash down in Sussex County, but we're going to have a few online auctions and give the people the opportunity to support the cause as usual. We have a great opportunity coming up in October where we're celebrating our volunteers, because without volunteers, we would not be here today.
Brian, how large is your staff? I know originally this was 2 organizations, and then you merged and became Autism Delaware. How large?
Right now, we run about 120 staff.
Wow.
Yes. 120 staff who we hardly ever see because they're out there virtually and face-to-face in the community. So when you come to, if you ever came to our office, you're like, well, where are all these people at? There's no one in the office because everybody here is delivering a service.
You're on the road. Yeah. And how many people do you serve in your departments?
Well, go ahead, Katina and Annalisa.
Annalisa.
So in family support, we have 11 staff across the state providing one-on-one support to families and family education. And we have approximately 3,500 parent contacts a year, serving a little over 1,200 families every year, but that's growing. And I would like to add to what would we want from the community. I would like our provider networks, our medical provider networks, to continue to refer families to our family support programs. We are, like Brian said, we never stopped working. We're still here supporting families, and families need support now more than ever.
Great.
Katina?
We are supporting over 150 individuals in the community with the diagnosis of autism, and that number grows, and it ebbs and flows, but yes.
I think, you know, the notion out in the public is that it's very hard to define, and people don't understand where it comes from and why the numbers are growing. I know that's a big topic when we have about a minute left, but anybody want to take that one? Why the mystery? Why, you know, why are the numbers growing?
I can't even begin to say why the numbers are growing. Some people will say because increased diagnosis. I just want to say, if you think about your youth, there always was I know growing up being in classes, there were always individuals that were a little different than me. You know, and a little different than me in church, a little different than me when I'm out in the park, or a little different than me when I was on a ball field playing. Back then, we didn't necessarily have diagnosis for them, but what we did as a community was we understood that there was a little difference, and we appreciated that, and we valued that, and then we took that and let them join the group as a whole, and they were just part of the group as a whole. I think as we continue these days, you know, people are always trying to fit into a box. I don't always think a box has to be a box. I think that we're faced with a little difference here, a little difference there, makes us all a little bit better. And so we may acknowledge it more often, but they're the same person that, you know, I went to school with when I was in kindergarten, and I may have been in class with when I was in graduate school. So, you know, people will take the time to characterize people, but it's really the value that they bring, and is that they want opportunity, just like
Bravo, Brian. Bravo. And we must get all of you back to continue the conversation, because it's really important. We don't even have time now to get into it, but I know several employers who really value and seek out people on the spectrum because they make such great employees. They're reliable and their concentration and so forth. Okay, how do people get in touch with you? We'll post your website, but is it donations or you want physically hands-on volunteers? Everything.
Everything.
Okay.
You know?
All right. Okay.
Everything.
Well, thank you, Team Autism Delaware, for making the time today. And bravo to you for persisting during the pandemic and doing the meaningful work that you do.
Thank you for reaching out to us.
All right. We'll talk again soon. How's that?
All right.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.